This video is sponsored by the following people. Please click the links in the description below.
Right. Hi, I'm Wendon Sharman Knives. I make knives. Yeah, I make quite a lot of outdoors style of knives, some to collectors, some to users, and I also make kitchen knife stuff, which is what we're going to concentrate on today. I'm only part-time, but it consumes pretty much all my spare time. It's like a curse. So we've gone through the process, just a quick overview. We've created our steel, forged out our mosaic Damascus, and we profiled and heat treated a knife. Just drilled a few holes in for glue to travel through when we put our handles on. Put a couple of holes in for our handle pins, and I've done some hand sanding as well. So this is now, it's not sharp, but it's very nearly sharp. And then we've got a 600 grit finish, and we'll take it up to 800 before we start etching. Pre-etch, we're going to put our name on it, or my name, and we're going to electro-etch it using some electrolyte, 25 volts. So it's low voltage, but it just eats into the material with it using a stencil. That'll give us a name, and it will be permanently marked as one of mine. Paul Mason put me onto this brand of. So I just put one edge with tape so I can flip it, and it actually remains in the same position each time, and I can wipe away some of the excess electrolyte and some of the rusty kind of smudge that gets left over with the etching process, and then it's kind of on clean metal every time I flip it, and remains in the same place. Just getting it in the right place to start with is kind of the hardest part, kind of lined up so that it looks right with the blade. Generally try and line it up with the edge rather than the spine. So I'll just go very lightly with my first pass so it doesn't really etch very much. And then if it's not quite right, I'll tweak it slightly. Put the amps right, or the voltage right down to like 5 or 10. Just very lightly go over with my electrolyte so it doesn't really eat in very much. If I'm happy with it, I'll go and carry on. That's the plan. You know it's going to be there for a few years then. What I'll do now is just lightly go over it with finished grit we did a moment ago, just to clean up some of the sort of fuzz around the edge of the etch. And then the name really pops. So a bit of a clean up with a bit of thinners, or white spirit, sorry. I find that to leave the best finish, or so that it's clean basically. I've used, what's the stuff called? What's the other stuff called? Yeah, what's the other solvent called? Oh, do you know what, forget it. My mind's going blank. It's ferric chloride. The acid's ferric chloride. It's really, really, really weak. I mean, I've heard ratios 4 or 5 to 1, all this sort of thing. I just put, well, most of my water in, and then add some ferric and put some steel in, see if you're getting some result. If it's not quite strong enough, top up a little bit more. Let's give it a go, shall we? Okey-dokey. So currently you've got the 800 grit scratches in the steel, which is okay, but they will actually leave some very fine etch marks in the steel. So I like to go over it in a swirling motion, so you're not following the grit scratches, clean out and get rid of those scratches with the etch. The etch kind of makes everything a little bit fuzzy, which then cleans back nicely. And yeah, the 2500 grit or above, polish it back in the acid, just do that a few times, and it also cleans the carbon steel, the 1080, which is the darker steel, and it actually polishes the 15N20 slightly, so then it enhances the eating away of the 1080, I would say. So on the disc grinder, we're going to just flatten off some of our stabilising solution on our wooden scales for our handle. So this is gidgee wood from Australia. It's very dense. I think people that go out into the bush and find trees that have fallen down and that kind of thing. A bit like the ironwood scenario, bring it home and cut it up. And it takes years to grow, and yeah, but it's nice stuff. First clean-up on this blade at the minute, 3000 grit paper. We'll take it to a bucket of water and do some scrubbing. Just removing some of those oxides, polishing up the 15N20, which is the steel that's least etched because of the nickel content. So a little bit of a rinse off, and it can go straight back in the acid. Not touched it, so we've not got any greasy fingerprints on it. And hopefully the pattern should start to look a little bit holographic. This is what the coffee etch kind of darkens it back down again. But generally after the etch it kind of looks like this. Try and polish the tops at least using a backing pad behind your paper, otherwise you'll end up polishing the 1080, the steel, without the nickel in it, which you don't really want to do because the coffee bonds to the non-shiny steel, if you like. Yeah, these are rolling mill. You can put it in your garage. It's single phase, works off of a worm drive gearbox, so it's nice and compact and safe, and you've got emergency stops and starts, and it's basically useful for bladesmithing, blacksmithing, anything where you want to roll out pieces of steel or anything else for that matter. Dough if you want. I would say the main use for it is nice, consistent, even rolling out of, say, sand mine, things like that, with 3 layers, 5 layers, that kind of thing. It almost makes that feel like cheating. It does it really easy. You can forge weld in it, providing you don't go too thick with your billet. Something under 20 mil, it'll roll all day long, and you get a nice, even, consistent core between your 3 layers, so there's no deviation of the core being off center or anything like that. And it's, yeah, really efficient. Back in the etch again for a minute. I suppose just looking for a nice bit of contrast between the two steels, a bit of depth between the two, so that you've got a pattern that's going to last some time. So these parts are the rounded outer edges of the billet that are then, you don't get quite so much pattern on them. These are the cut marks that we cut in, and that's where it then changes again. We've got back to a lump, back to a dip, back to a lump. We'll get the holes drilled, get the front end of the handle shaped and finished, because you can't get to that bit once it's been glued together. So I'll generally stick a little bit of super glue in there just to hold that one on there. Once I've drilled this side, I'll stick the other scale in line so all the bookmat scales all line up and the grain all lines up. Flip it over and drill through this side, and then once that's off, we can mark out the front of the handle where we would like it to sit on the blade, and then I'll go to the bandsaw and profile out what's left of material, excess material, and we can finish the front part of the handle, which is difficult to get to once it's assembled. It pays just to have a helicopter stop, so we don't have a blade whizzing around and catching fingers. Having surface ground these scales, we're pretty confident that everything is level or good enough. Just drill through. I prefer the Corby bolts because they're actually pulling the handle material onto the blade. Plus you then have that shearing action, I suppose. It's strong in all ways. We'll fill these holes with epoxy, so there'll be a bond between the two handle materials as well, so it's just not going anywhere. Just temporary little couple of dabs on this one, and some actuator. We can line everything up so that they're going to look exactly the same both sides. So we'll set it down on the milling machine this way up now, and we'll drill right through both sides. So, there we go. That's all it took to break them apart. We'll just mark round, and then we can cut the excess off on the bandsaw. There's a step drill. I use the surface grinder to grind off this first portion that actually sits in the hole. This is a bigger version, but it sits in the hole and guides the drill to follow for the Corby bolt. So increase step size, a step drill basically. So we'll use smaller stainless ones for this, but these are little 3/16 large diameter. Yeah, so these are 3/16 and 1/8 inch, so 3.2 mil and 4.7-ish millimeter, and these are the bigger 1/4 inch versions, so 6.35, and I'm not sure exactly what the size is, I forget now. And these are the Corby bolts they've got a little slot in them, and they will hold your handle material on, and you grind off the slot once your glue's set. Where the mill is nice, because I can turn that one on, zero it, and I'll go down to the same depth on each one. That's 7 mil, there we go. What we don't want to do is drill right through with the larger size and then not have anywhere for the bolt to bottom down onto, so that's kind of where we're at. Be a really nice fit with 0 gaps around your bolt, because that just looks really unsightly. You start seeing glue gaps and things. Oh yeah, and that will then stick into the tang of the knife, and the other side, the bolt will come in from the other side. Let's have holes.
I hope you found this knife making video entertaining and informative at the same time. Don't forget we have member exclusive behind the scenes photos and videos on patreon.com/UKBladeShow. Follow Sharman Knives on Instagram for more details on his work, and as always, if you're enjoying our videos, please give us a thumbs up and check out the other knife making videos you can see on the screen. Cheers guys!